They found something that shouldn't exist inside the Barbie house. Everyone said the Barbie house was empty, abandoned, harmless, just a forgotten plastic playset sitting behind a hedge on a quiet street. Parents used to laugh about it. Kids dared each other to knock on the tiny door and run away. Neighbors called it decoration, something cute that had outlived its purpose. And for a long time, that explanation worked. Until it didn't. The first thing that changed everything was a video. 4 seconds long, grainy, low resolution, the kind of clip people usually scroll past without a second thought. It showed the porch of the Barbie house late at night. The light flickered once. Then a shadow stepped into view. Not from outside. From inside the house. By the next morning, the clip was gone. Deleted. But the rumor it created didn't disappear. If the house was empty, people started asking who was inside it. Stay with me, because what we found inside completely changed the story. And if you're into investigations that sit right on the edge between reality and something harder to explain, subscribe now. This channel focuses on the details most people overlook. The Barbie house sat on a narrow lot, tucked behind a hedge that had grown wild over the years. Its pastel walls were still bright, almost too bright, like they had been protected from time. Pink shingles, plastic shutters, a heart-shaped porch light that blinked on and off with no clear pattern. From a distance, it looked harmless. Up close, something felt off. The lawn around it was perfectly trimmed, even though no one claimed to maintain it. The mailbox still had a sticker that read, "Home Sweet Home," faded but intact. Small stories began to circulate. A neighbor said the porch light turned on even when the power to the lot was supposedly cut. Another claimed there were tiny footprints in the dust on the windowsill, too small to belong to an adult, too defined to be an animal. A security guard assigned to the area mentioned hearing whispers late at night, sounds that seemed to come from inside the panels of the structure. Individually, these stories were easy to dismiss. People misinterpret things. Memories blur. Imagination fills gaps. But together, they formed a pattern. 2 weeks before the rumors exploded, a motion sensor mounted under the eave of the Barbie house recorded a short clip. 4 seconds. Frame 1 showed the interior still and empty. Frame 2 showed a distortion near the miniature hallway, like the air itself had shifted. Frame 3 captured a silhouette moving through the doorway. It was too small to be an adult, but the proportions were wrong for a toy. Frame 4 showed nothing at all. The image glitched, bending slightly, as if the camera struggled to process what it had seen. The clip spread quickly. Group chats, social media threads, late-night conversations. Then it vanished. Accounts were deleted. Links broke. Screenshots replaced originals. That disappearance only made people more curious. And that curiosity is what brought us to the door. Going inside a place like that feels different than you expect. The door opened wider than it should have, the hinges creaking softly. Inside, sound behaved strangely. Every step felt hollow, contained, as if the air itself was holding on to noise instead of letting it escape. At first, the scale fooled us. Tiny chairs arranged neatly around a miniature table, a plastic kitchen with fake appliances, decorations frozen in a version of happiness that hadn't existed for years. Then we noticed the seams, wallpaper patterns that didn't line up correctly, repeating for a few inches and then failing. Light pooling in corners where there was no visible source. A low mechanical hum, barely audible, steady and patient. This wasn't just a toy. It felt layered, like something had been built inside something else. We documented everything. A chair rotated slightly from its position in older photos, not knocked over, just moved an inch. Beneath the back step, we found a pastry crumb, fresh enough to still flake when touched. Behind a loose panel near the floor, there was a folded piece of fabric. Not plastic, not decorative. Hand-stitched, with uneven seams and a softness that didn't belong in a playset. One edge was faintly damp, as if it had absorbed moisture recently. Inside the folded fabric was a small note, handwritten, just a date and a time. When we compared it to the motion sensor footage, the timestamps matched exactly. 2 independent traces pointing to the same moment. That was the point where the word abandoned stopped fitting. Pause here for a second. Think about what that implies. Does this feel staged to you, or does it feel lived in? Drop your first instinct in the comments. Don't overthink it. At this point, it was important to rule out the obvious explanations. This wasn't a haunted doll story. It wasn't possession. It wasn't a monster hiding in a toy house. Those ideas make good movies, but they don't explain patterns. What we were seeing suggested presence. Something small enough to use the space. Something patient enough to remain unnoticed. Something that understood the house would be ignored. In other words, the Barbie house wasn't empty. It was useful. We consulted someone who specialized in miniatures and dollhouses, a collector who had spent years restoring old sets. He examined the fabric carefully. He explained how breath moisture behaves in enclosed spaces, how warmth can linger in places without airflow. The dampness along the seam wasn't old. It was recent. At the same time, he was clear about one thing. Scenes like this can be faked. Miniatures invite performance. People project stories onto them all the time. So we tested the alternatives. Crumbs could be planted, furniture could be moved, videos could be edited. But 2 details resisted easy explanation. The angle of a Polaroid photograph we later found inside the structure, taken from a position impossible to reach from outside, and the note hidden behind a panel that required entering the house to access. 2 separate artifacts, same timestamp, same location. That intersection mattered. Behind a false wall deeper inside the structure, we found documentation. Notes, sketches, logged times. Someone had been recording observations. One line stood out. Entry voluntary. Anomaly observed. It suggested that whoever wrote it didn't stumble into this situation by accident. They were studying something. And then the note stopped. No signs of violence. No signs of a struggle. Just absence. The deepest room was the hardest to describe. Condensation formed on a curved surface, collecting and reforming in patterns that didn't feel random. For a brief moment, the droplets aligned into something that looked almost intentional. Not clearly, not completely, just enough to suggest awareness. Then it blurred again. That was the moment everything shifted. The house wasn't hiding something. It was containing it. And containment, by definition, is temporary. Outside, the Barbie house looked the same as it always had. Plastic smiling in the sunset, pink walls glowing softly. From the street, it still looked like a joke, a novelty, a harmless leftover from another time. But now we knew better. This wasn't an abandoned playset. It was a place chosen precisely because no one would look twice. So what did we really find? Not proof in the courtroom sense, not evidence that closes a case forever, but enough to change the question. This story is no longer about whether the house was empty. It's about who was using it and why they chose a place designed to be ignored. Now I want to hear from you. Was this an elaborate setup? Someone using the house as shelter? Or something else entirely? Something that learned how to stay small and unseen? Share your theory in the comments. If you have tips, similar cases, or footage, let us know. And subscribe if you want more investigations like this. Some stories don't end when the lights go out. They wait.